Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So this is going to be a very brief hangout. My show is about to come on, Game of Thrones. All my Game of Thrones fans, holler at me in the comment section. What do y'all think about the new season? But anyway, I don't want to waste time because I only have a few minutes here. I want to also let you all know that tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be interviewing Obsidian. We'll be talking about Black male-female relationships. We'll be talking about Pookie and Ray Ray versus the educated lames. We'll be talking about, his ideas about Black women and his perceptions of Black women. So I hope that you all can check that out. It will be an interview type of format. It will not be a debate. So I hope that you all can join me for that. If you have questions for Obsidian, please leave them in the comment section to this video, so I'll have those ready for the interview. And also you all can chime in during the live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. Let me know what your comments are at that time. Provide your questions, because I'm sure plenty of people have questions for Obsidian. And again, I want to apologize for having to cancel on Saturday. Unexpected things came up, so I wasn't able to go forward with that particular interview. So we will go forward tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope to see you all there. But for this video right here, I want to talk about Washington, D.C. and gentrification. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you all so you can see this article. It's from Essence. So just bear with me one second. And I know that quite a few people have already talked about this issue, but I felt the need to chime in on this issue, especially since I attended Howard University. As many of you all know, I went to Howard University. While I was there, I studied political science, but I want to just take some time to talk about this issue because this is something that's personal to me, because as a Howard alum, it just bothers me that you have this situation in DC right now. So just to give you all a backdrop, DC has fundamentally changed. Back when I went to Howard, years ago, DC was known as the Chocolate City. But today it's no longer known as the Chocolate City. It has become gentrified. It's very expensive to live in DC nowadays. A lot of the residents are white. And I would not be surprised if DC is no longer a majority Black city at this point. I would have to look up the numbers. And I might as well do that real quick just to see what the numbers are for DC right now. So if you can bear with me, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And I'm going to just do a quick Google search of the census records for DC right now, because DC has fundamentally changed. And I'll get into that in 1 second. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so I'm trying to pull up the quick information about Washington, D.C. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to share my screen. So here's the information about Washington, D.C. today. This says population estimates July 1st, 2018. And it says that at this time, when this was done, it says that there were 45.1% white people in Washington, D.C. and 47.1% Black people in Washington, D.C. in 2018. Now, that's different from the makeup of Washington, D.C. at the time when I went to Howard University. D.C. was a predominantly Black city, and the area surrounding Howard University was predominantly Black. Now things have fundamentally changed in Washington, D.C. It's almost unrecognizable from the time period when I was there. Now you have a large white and Asian population in Washington, D.C. Again, the housing prices are unreasonable. The average Black family cannot afford to live in Washington, D.C. at this particular time. So a lot of people have been basically pushed out of Washington, D.C. And you have them being replaced by a white rising group of people. So you have these yuppies and stuff coming into these formerly predominantly Black areas. And with this gentrification, you have problems like what's happening at Howard University. You have these white residents in the area walking their dogs on Howard University's campus as if this historically Black campus is some kind of dog park. So of course they have their dogs walking on campus, and you know what dogs do. Dogs piss everywhere, dogs crap everywhere, and somebody has to clean that up. So you have a situation where these white yuppies are basically colonizing a formerly Black area, and they are literally crapping on Howard University. And Howard University is considered the mecca of Black education. It's one of the top tier Black colleges in this country. And you literally had these white people crapping all over it. They have their dogs crapping on Howard University and, on the campus. And I think that that is a metaphor for the treatment of Black people under these types of situations where you have gentrification. Now, this situation is very unfortunate, that we have a situation where a predominantly Black city is no longer, is on the verge of no longer being a predominantly Black city. And, it's barely predominantly Black just by a couple of percentage points, when before it was overwhelmingly Black. And the thing is, the troubling thing is that when Black people are in the majority, these corporations had no interest in helping to develop Washington, D.C., in terms of investing into these communities, building businesses in these communities. And part of it can be explained, but I think that it is a disgrace that you have to have white people move into an area before these people decide to bring in businesses, before they decide to develop things. And I just think that that's a disgrace, and it speaks to the nature of the society in which we live. So, for all these years when Black people were the majority, they didn't have all this kind of development. I went to DC a few years ago, just in the area where I used to hang out a lot during my Howard days, like on 14th and U. And that whole area is completely changed. You have all these major corporations over there, all those Fortune 500 companies doing business in that area, when before you didn't have all that stuff going on. When it was just Black people there, they didn't find any need to build these businesses. But it's like with these white people, when the white people come to town, they have to be accommodated. And these corporations decide to accommodate them with all kinds of goods and services that they never provided to Black communities. And that's a disgrace. And when I look at this situation in DC, part of the blame lays at the feet of Black people, in particular, the Black middle class, because a lot of the Black middle class left DC. They went to the suburbs. They did not invest in DC. They did not buy real estate and keep, and those that didn't hold on to their real estate. And now today that property is worth so much money. But a lot of our people tried to get out of DC, for, in pursuit of following white people and, trying to live what they saw as a better life in the suburbs and stuff like that. And I mean, to be fair, in all fairness, there were problems in DC, especially at the time when I was there. You had, the drug epidemic, crack was a major problem in DC. You had, major violence going on. Like you had the rise of people like a Rayful Edmond and stuff like that. So I understand it. To some degree, I understand why people decided to leave, but I think that instead of fleeing situations, we need to stay and fight to improve our communities. Because when we don't, we see situations like what's happening in DC. And if people here in Baltimore don't watch out, we'll have the same type of situation here, where you have Black people basically being pushed out of the city, and you have these colonizers, these yuppies come in and take over the land and take over the situation. Like, you'll have these elected figureheads in office, but the real power will be behind these yuppies and the corporations. And that's what has happened in DC, unfortunately, man. It's like gotten so bad that they've been talking about like banning go-go music, like on the street corners and stuff like that in DC. And for people that are familiar with DC, they know that it's a huge part of the culture in DC. It's a huge part of Black culture, where you have people playing their drums on the street, but now they're trying to eliminate that. And that's one of the consequences of this gentrification, which is nothing but a modern day form of colonization. You had these formerly Black communities being colonized and displaced. And then you have situations like this. And one thing that's so outrageous about this particular story, and let me go back to it again, is that you actually have this white person saying that if people have a problem with, with these white people walking their dogs on campus, they need to move the campus outside of DC. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this to you. Just bear with me, some excerpts from this, but this is absolutely ridiculous. So somebody was asking, a person some questions, and they said, this is a university. This is a historically Black university, and you feel so entitled that you just walk your dog there. So this graduating senior asked this question, and the senior said, I find it very disrespectful. And then, this person in response, this DC resident, which I'm assuming is white, and I'm going to play this little video. Well, maybe I'm not going to play the video because I don't want to deal with copyright issues. But the link to this article will be in the description box so that you can check it out for yourself. So this DC resident, who I'm assuming is white, I'm assuming this person is white, says they're in part of DC. So they have to work within DC. So if they don't want to be within DC, they should move the campus. So this person is basically suggesting that Howard University move its campus in order to avoid these colonizers. They want to have their dogs walk freely on campus and crap all over the place. I just think that displays a certain level of arrogance, a certain level of disrespect to a culture and a people. Because this campus has been there for, it says like 150 years. That's how old Howard University is. And you got this colonizer talking about the people at Howard need to move their campus so that these privileged yuppies can walk their dogs and have their dogs crap wherever they want to crap and all that kind of stuff. This is just like an invasion. It's like these colonizers, these gentrifiers are like invaders, invading communities, disrespecting those communities. And it's a shame that we live in a society that panders to these colonizers. It's like, as I was saying before, like when Black people were the majority, you didn't have all these goods and services. All of a sudden, they want to develop everything. Now that you have white people in town, they want to develop corporations, as if Black people don't purchase items from these same corporations. All of a sudden, you have changes in the school system and all these other changes. So yeah, I just wanted to bring you this story. And unfortunately, I will not be able to respond to your comments in the chat room. I will check those out later. And if I find a need, I may do a response video to some of the comments in the chat room and in the comments section. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. And also, I wanted to remind you that, again, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be interviewing Obsidian, and we'll be talking about Pookie and Ray Ray versus the educated lames, and this whole Pookie and Ray Ray compromise that Obsidian likes to talk about. And if you have any questions for the brother, please leave them in the comment section. I will consider those, and I may raise some of those questions during the interview. So with that, peace and blessings to each and every one of you. And I hope those of you who celebrate Easter, I hope that you had a happy Easter. Peace.